It's 3 a.m. and you're awake again. Not tossing, not turning, just awake. Your ceiling is the only thing looking back at you. Your phone says 3 hours until the alarm. Your heart isn't racing. Your mind isn't spiraling. You're just calm and awake and confused about why. You call it insomnia. You blame the coffee, the stress, the blue light from your phone. But the real answer is far stranger. Your body isn't broken. It's remembering something you were never taught. For most of human history, nobody slept the way you're supposed to sleep tonight. One long block, 8 hours. Lights off, lights on, done. That idea is new. It's barely older than the light bulb. And your body, the one lying awake right now, still runs on the old code. The historian Roger Ekirch spent over a decade digging through court records, diaries, and medical texts from pre-industrial Europe. He found something odd. Again and again, ordinary people described their night in two parts. They called them first sleep and second sleep. You'd go to bed a few hours after dark. You'd sleep for 3 or 4 hours. Then you'd wake up. Not in a panic, not from a bad dream. You'd simply be awake, in the dark, for an hour or two. People used that hour to pray, to talk quietly with a partner, to think. Some got up and visited neighbors. Then, when the waking hour passed, they'd lie back down for a second sleep that carried them to dawn. Doesn't that sound familiar? The 3 a.m.? Awakening you dread might be the exact hour your ancestors expected. It wasn't a malfunction. It was the middle of the night doing exactly what the middle of the night was built to do. So why does yours feel like a crisis? Because somewhere along the way, the rules changed, and nobody told your nervous system. Ekirch traced the shift to a very specific culprit: artificial light. As candles gave way to gas lamps, and gas lamps gave way to electric bulbs, night stopped being dark. Darkness had always been the signal that told the body to soften, to drift, to let the two-part rhythm unfold naturally. Once that signal weakened, so did the rhythm. Factories needed workers who showed up at a fixed hour, alert, for a fixed shift. A night broken into 2 lazy halves with an hour of candlelit conversation in between didn't fit an assembly line. So the culture pressed sleep into a single, tidy block. One sleep, 8 hours, efficient, convenient, and almost entirely artificial. But here's the twist that should really unsettle you. If segmented sleep were simply a European habit from a few centuries ago, you could dismiss it as historical trivia. It isn't. The pattern runs much deeper than candlelight and court records. The neuroscientist Jerome Siegel at UCLA wanted to know what sleep looked like before electricity existed at all. Not before gas lamps, before agriculture, before permanent settlements. So he studied 3 hunter-gatherer and hunter-horticulturalist groups still living without electric light: the Hadza of Tanzania, the San of Namibia, and the Simane of Bolivia. 3 different continents, 3 unrelated cultures. He expected to find something close to Ekirch's 2-part European pattern. He didn't. He found something even stranger. None of these groups slept in 2 neat halves either. They didn't sleep the moment the sun went down. They stayed active for hours after dusk, sitting around fires, talking, drifting off gradually, waking gradually, napping in the heat of midday. Their sleep wasn't locked to darkness at all. It was locked to temperature. Siegel's data showed these groups fell asleep as the temperature was dropping, hours after sunset, and woke as it began rising again, before sunrise. Light mattered. But temperature mattered more. Think about what that means. For nearly the entire span of human existence, sleep wasn't a scheduled event. It wasn't a block you entered and exited on command. It was a slow negotiation with your environment. Warm enough, you stayed up. Cool enough, you drifted down. Something shifted in the middle of the night, you noticed, briefly, then drifted back. There was no alarm clock demanding a verdict on whether you were a good sleeper or a bad sleeper. There was just your body, doing what bodies had done for 200,000 years. Now hold that image next to your bedroom tonight. Blackout curtains, a thermostat locked at exactly 70 degrees, a phone that tells you your sleep score the moment you open your eyes, an alarm that treats 7 hours and 59 minutes as a failure and 8 hours as a win. You've built an environment engineered for one long, unbroken, temperature-controlled block of unconsciousness. And when your body, running on 200,000 years of different instructions, quietly declines to cooperate, you call it a disorder. The anthropologist Carol Worthman at Emory University has a phrase for this: She calls it sleep ecology, the idea that sleep was never meant to be studied in isolation from the environment around it. Fires, temperature, social proximity, safety, all of it shaped how and when humans actually slept. Worthman's research points to something the modern world tends to forget. For most of human history, sleep was porous. People slept near others, half aware of their surroundings, waking briefly to check on a child, or a fire, or a sound in the dark, then sinking back down. Deep, isolated, uninterrupted sleep in a private room, alone, with the doors locked, is a strange luxury. Or, depending on how you look at it, a strange isolation. Isn't it strange that we call broken sleep the problem, when unbroken sleep is the anomaly? Here's the part that should really land. The waking you experience at 3 a.m. isn't necessarily your body failing to do its job. In many cases, it's your body succeeding at an ancient one. A brief surfacing, a check of the environment, a moment of quiet awareness, then a return to sleep. That's not insomnia. That's the architecture Ekirch found in the diaries. That's the same architecture Siegel found glowing in the brainwaves of the halves. It's old. It's normal. It's yours. What changed isn't your biology. What changed is what you're allowed to do with that waking hour. A person in 1600 could sit up, light a candle, talk to their spouse, say a prayer, and lie back down without judgment. A person tonight picks up a phone, sees the time, feels a jolt of anxiety about tomorrow's meeting, and spends the next 90 minutes fighting their own nervous system instead of gently coexisting with it. The insomnia isn't the waking. The insomnia is the panic about the waking. So what do you do with that at 3 a.m., lying there staring at the ceiling? Maybe nothing. Maybe you let the hour be the hour it was always meant to be. Not a failure to sleep, but a pause in the middle of it. Your ancestors used it to talk quietly, to think, to exist in the dark without demanding anything of themselves. They didn't check a clock and calculate how many hours of productive sleep they'd lost. They didn't have a clock glowing red beside the bed, keeping score. They just waited, unbothered, for the second half to come. Your body still remembers how to do that. It's been doing it for 200,000 years. The only thing standing in the way is a culture that decided, a few centuries ago, that a person lying quietly awake in the dark was a problem to be fixed rather than a rhythm to be trusted. So tonight, when you wake at 3 a.m. and the ceiling is the only thing looking back at you, maybe don't reach for your phone. Maybe don't calculate the hours you have left. Maybe just lie there, awake, in the dark, the way humans have for nearly the whole of their existence. Because it's 3 a.m. and you're awake again. And for the first time, maybe that's not a crisis at all. If your brain just changed a little, hit subscribe. There's more where that came from. New videos every week.